Welcome to the iNetrepreneur Radio Show. We are so honored to bring you your host, the ultimate celebritypreneur, connecting businesses and celebrities worldwide. Winner of the Networking Organization of the Year, best-selling author, magazine publisher, trainer, and owner and founder of Network Together and the iNetrepreneur Media Network from magazines, TV, and radio network. We're excited to bring you your host, Mr. Robert W. Jones.
Happy Thursday, everyone. Welcome to the show. Yes, Robert W. Jones, as my good friend Buddy Thornton says, it's the W. I put the wow in that W, but no, I tell him it's not the wow in the W. It's actually the W stands for Wesley. So my name is Robert Wesley Jones, and I'm a junior. That's hard to believe. I'm a junior. I guess that means I'm dose. So hopefully that's an upgrade. I doubt it. But at any rate, I'll take it as an upgrade. Well, welcome to the show here today. I'm glad you're with me. I just want to get to some business that's kind of going around the network right now. We are in our 5th book of the Art of Connection book series, the #1 heart-centered entrepreneurial book series in the world, according to Amazon. And I'm here with friends today who are a part of this book series. And I'm so glad they're with us because, you know what, isn't it all about sharing a heart set, a mindset, and that gets us straight to the skill sets to let us utilize our gifts for the world? I certainly hope so. And I believe that is true. So again, if you would like to be a part of this #1 international best-selling book series, you can go to 365 days. That's 365 days of abundancequotes.com. Again, 365 days of abundancequotes.com. We're securing entrepreneurs, authors, business owners, influencers. Heck, your mom, your dad, your kids, bring them all in. We'd love to have them in the Art of Connection book. I'd be remiss if I don't say we love your likes. You know, we love your love, but we also love your likes. So go to facebook.com/iNetrepreneur Radio or youtube.com/iNetrepreneur Radio and bookmark us. Because like I said, I mean, some people can't say it. I can't even spell it. But, you know, that's our name, iNetrepreneur Network. If you bookmark it, you'll never have to spell it again. Also, you can go to iNetrepreneur magazine.com or thecontemporarywoman.com and take a look at the magazines that we have, both in digital and in print on demand. And lastly, ntevents.net. ntevents.net is really what I would call the playbook for the whole iNetrepreneur Network and for the authors of the Art of Connection book series. We put on over 1,000 meetings and events each year. And the events that you see on the calendar are the events that we have open for the public. We're an open place. Please come in. I call it the catering principle. I never sold a dish if no one tasted it first. So please, we're going to let you taste what it's like to network with the iNetrepreneur Network. And so on with the show. I'm so excited to bring in my first guest, Howard Brown. Howard, welcome. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you, Robert W. The wow is so true. I'm so excited to be with you, and I appreciate you having me on the show.
You know, I appreciate you too tremendously, Howard. And, you know, one of the things I always say when it comes to learning, you know, it's not just about listening. And so much of the time people are like, what? You know, it's all about the listening. And I'm like, yes, there's a lot to the listening, but it's also about the watching. And the one thing I love about watching you, Howard, is when you speak, you truly engage with yourself. You lean forward, you give eye contact, you shoulder up. You know, you do all those things that makes me say, this guy really, you know, is providing me space to be in his world. And I think in this day and age, that's almost like a subject that should be trained in itself, don't you?
I do. I've had throughout my career media training. And so it's very important to focus on where you're at. Because, you know, with these cell phones and other things, you get these shiny objects and events that are distracting. And that's, quite frankly, disrespectful. And how are you going to absorb, okay, what's happening in the room or at the table and be able to respond correctly at the right time. So they're very important. Your stage presence. Okay.
I agree
how you command yourself. And I do that intentionally and authentically, and I hope others will too.
I appreciate that, Howard. Again, everyone, I'm with Howard Brown of Shining Brightly, an illuminator coach, a health tech consultant, best-selling author, and might I say, international best-selling author with the Art of Connection book series, I have to say, a motivational speaker. You can contact him at howard@shiningbrightly.com. Again, that's howard@shiningbrightly.com, or call him at 248-770-3191. Howard, we've talked a lot about our tech pasts, and maybe a little bit less about a journey that we both can identify with. We are both cancer survivors, and there's a lot that I've learned about being a cancer survivor, and one of the greatest things that I've learned is how beautiful life is, and what a gift it is. And so many times we hear sayings out there, and we hear them over and over again. They don't really resonate with much meaning anymore. Sometimes it's almost like feeling, I serve the United States Marine Corps, and someone says, thank you for your service. And it almost sounds canned. It doesn't really sound natural and, deep, should I say. But what I want to talk about is when it comes to being a cancer survivor, what we learned has been applied in our lives. And so much for you, you've taken this as a part of who you are as a person to help others come forward and be in a place that they might not have been otherwise. Howard, why are you stepping into that shining brightly light? And why does it matter so much for you to be a figurehead for other cancer survivors?
So Robert, thank you for asking that question. It's so important. So I am a 2-time stage 4 cancer survivor, 30 years apart. And so at a young age of 23 and a half, I was diagnosed with stage 4 T-cell non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And I got very lucky, right? They told me I had 6 months to live. Nothing was working, but my twin sister was an exact bone marrow match. And that's like that's hitting the lottery, 1 in 25,000 chance. She saved my life. I got my life back. And I call that putting Humpty Dumpty back together again, because that was the analog days of 1989 through 1991. We didn't have internet and cell phones. We had lots of busy signals and landlines and payphones. And it was my analog time. And I was immune suppressed. I didn't have an immune system. So I was alone a lot. I got to play Nintendo. I was a 23-year-old kid. And all I wanted to do was to get my life back. And so at 136 pounds and bald, after, kind of going through all the chemotherapy, the bone marrow transplant, a clinical trial, I got to get my life back. And I was so grateful. And I needed to put myself back together emotionally, physically, financially, career, relationships. And I did that in California. I moved from all the way across the country to do that. Now, I didn't exactly learn my lesson, but good things started to happen when I started to put my life back together. I was a little more mature, right? Even though for a 25-year-old. Career was getting back on track. Community service. I met my wife. Big events were happening. The karma had changed. I was at my happy place, the basketball court. And this is what I learned on how to do that. But like anything else, cancer got put in the rear view. And I jumped back into something I was very natural at, called being a workaholic.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I was at tech startups, and
Right.
there was never enough hours in the day, and running fast. 2 + 2 did equal 200, even though it doesn't. And so I kind of lost myself because I felt I was robbed a little bit. Even though I was grateful to be alive, I was still young, and I just wanted to get back to that, and I missed out a little bit. But I got married, and I had another miracle. Frozen sperm became my daughter. And so again, these blessings between my twin sister and these miracles were great for me. My career was going very well. And I started to learn, after going through all the .com craziness of taking companies public and growing them, is that there's more to life than that. And so I moved to Michigan, and I was running a couple platforms serving the largest social networks in the world, faith and religion. And at 50 years old, I went in for my colonoscopy, and I came out with stage 3 colon cancer. Lightning struck again. So this time I've got a freshman in high school, a 15-year-old, basically. I'm married 22 years. It's the digital age. This is June of 2016. But still, I had to go down a very difficult path of surgeries and chemotherapy and clinical trials and a drastic surgery where they cut all the cancer out and put in hot chemotherapy. And again, 4% chance of living 6 months.
Yeah.
You have, the hourglass that people are years. Mine was actually, down to months, weeks, and days. I mean, they told me my life was, get my affairs in order again.
And one of the things I want to kind of interject in here, Howard,
Sure.
It's like, and certainly I'm a survivor, yes, and and you 2 times, and really going through some crazy medical procedures, when we talk about that. But one of the things that sometimes we don't talk in the cancer survival, outside the community, is really there are times when you're just alone in your thoughts. I mean, I know I was, I'm jumping up and down. I'm doing jumping jacks. I'm hiking. We see all this bright side. It's like a big pharma commercial. It's just like, they're gonna have, everyone's, shopping and skydiving and riding bikes and finding love as they tell everyone all about the side effects in the background, which you're not supposed to really hear. But, there is a lot of time to be in your own thoughts. There is a lot of time when, yes, even if you have the best of all support, there are those times where you just have to kind of really say to yourself, at least with me, am I going to get through this? Will I get through this? Can I get through this? And, I did it once, but I couldn't imagine actually doing it and going through that again, because one thing I found is anytime you've done something twice, sometimes not just the best of what happened before comes back, some of the worst things that, thoughts come back as well. I mean, really, how did you deal with that second time? And in a way, how do you use that to apply what you're doing now as really an amazing entrepreneur, podcaster, radio show host, and best-selling author?
So I have to tell you that what you just described, that introspection, okay, is that walk in darkness. Okay. I probably had denial, some depression, some anger the first time. I did it the second time as well, but I actually limited it to a certain window of time. I didn't carry it forward. It is very dangerous to isolate. But I had to go through that. I was like, I can't believe lightning struck again. I can't believe I'm not going to see my daughter graduate high school. You think about the what ifs, right? And so I didn't stay there too long, because when you stay there too long, there's possible other bad stuff can happen. Addiction can happen. Anger can happen. Other things. And I didn't want to stay there too long. And I wanted to put a short goal in front of me. And that short goal was to watch my daughter graduate high school and get her diploma. And that was going to be 2.5 years away. And I said, that's what I got to get to. So I put a goal out there. And the other thing is, by not isolating, I let in the cavalry. I was alone with my parents most of the time in Cancer One. Yeah. This time with the digital age, I said, anyone that wants to send a prayer, a joke, that is, asking me what's going on, I took it all in, and I used the metaphor of light. So I allowed other people's light to lift me back up. And did that help me heal? You betcha it did. And that's where the Shining Brightly came about, is that walking in darkness and then using the light of others to get me back to strength and health again. Listen, there's a lot of cancer patients that pass away because their cancer burden was too great. I am blessed. I am so grateful and lucky that I am alive.
And, one of the things, and I'm not sure I've mentioned this before, but what attracted me to your book was definitely the title, and, Shining Brightly, because I have something called the theory of bright lights, and it's something that I don't really put out there. And I've always said it takes all the little monies of the world to compete against the big monies, And so the way I say that is, if you have a light, I have a light, Christa, who's coming on, Art, who's coming on, if we all have purpose and we all drive the light in the same direction, we can be seen from the heavens above. And that's my theories of light. And it's so important for us to not just have lights and have light in chaos. It's actually matters if we are purposeful. We provide meaning and intent behind how we use our lights. And that's one thing that I appreciate about you, Howard, as I'm one of your fans, of course, is you create such intentional illumination. And I really want to kind of dig into, for you, why shining brightly? Why did that resonate with you, and why do you embrace it so?
So the quick story is that shining brightly actually I actually got these sunglasses for the first female president of Babson College, and I was the president of the Worldwide Alumni Association. So when I welcomed her, I said, Babson is shining brightly. And I put on these glasses, and so did 200 other people. They became a big hit. I ordered 5,000 pair. They were a big hit for that year. And I continued with it. So when my publisher, Frontage Publishing, asked me the title of my book, I said, I already have it. It's Shining Brightly. And who doesn't want to be shining brightly, right?
Absolutely.
And so my premise is that if we actually join our light together, and my daughter, okay, like your son, they're geniuses, right? She said, Dad, it's really great to shine, your light, but put it in action. Put it in action. Positivity and light in action. And so I love the fact that we can use our light, okay, together to become a force multiplier for good and positive change. And this is what the AOC community has done for me. And I hope I've contributed a force of light into that community as well.
I mean, you absolutely have. And that's where I wanted to end our segment, with this part of the show is, talking about the art of connection. And, it's the same thing I learned, when I looked around at a book signing. I remember thinking to myself when I was asked, it's not about the book, it's about the people in the book. That's what really matters. And you found an amazing place within this community. And again, you illuminate so many people to come into the community. And for you, Howard, what does community mean? And what does this community mean to you?
So community is vital, right? We all have different, and you can have a few communities and lots of communities that you belong to, but that's why we're here. We're here to join hands, okay? In our family community, in our friend community, in our work community, in our cause communities, we're here to join hands. And that's why we're put here. We're not really solo. We're not based here to just be solo. And so that's what community means to me, is the ability to have a like-minded cause, hopefully for good, and to put it into action. And this community, which I joined from our lovely shout out to Natalie McQueen, the publisher, is that she found me and she found my lonely book on Amazon and said, you're a writer, you need to give it company. And I said, okay. And I thought that was it. And oh my God, I was surprised because I was started to invite it. You have 1,000 events. I can't make them all. But I started to come and I started to be introduced, and I went with intention, and we started to then meet people. And then people are like, oh, we should have a one-on-one. And oh, you should come on my author's journey with Sinette Van Breda, shout out. You should go do, these other projects together. And it's been such a really welcoming community. And that I love that people are starting the nonprofit. If you want to join in with them, they'll welcome you. If you don't have time, they understand. And we're learning. We're a learning community. That's the big bonus. This is a learning community. Where do you get that? Where do you get that today? You have to look for it.
In another place, in a word I'm going to bring up later, I believe in my heart of hearts that every entrepreneur, business owner, and influencer needs a safe place to go so they can grow. And that to me is one of the most important things in my life, is providing safety. And a lot of people, they're never concerned about safety until after they know that they need something safe. And, I want to provide it right out from the front. So Howard, thank you so much. I'm with Howard Brown of Shining Brightly. He is your illuminator coach and health tech consultant. And I have my sunglasses and I left them outside, but he's a motivational speaker. Contact him at howard@shiningbrightly.com. Again, howard@shiningbrightly.com, or call him at 248-770-3191. Again, Howard, thank you so much for being on the show. I appreciate you.
Robert,
And,
you're a wow. We'll see you in a little bit. Thank you.
all right. We'll see you right at the ending of the show. Thank you,
You
Howard.
got it. Thank you.
Oh my goodness. Again, so cool having Howard on to the show today. Well, we're just going to take a little bit of break before we come in for our next guest. Wow. Thank you again so much, Howard. Howard Brown of Shining Brightly. Please connect with him at howard@shiningbrightly.com. Or, he's brave like the rest of our guests. You can call him at 248-770-3191. Howard, again, thank you for being on the show. And now I'm excited for a new guest on the show. And I'm bringing her right on. And oh my goodness, Christa Rose, I see some sunshine there.
How could I not? After such an inspirational talk, I am over the moon. And Howard is just so amazing. So I had to put my shades on.
Oh my goodness, your shades look wonderful. I love that. And I kid you not, I'm like, I know with Howard, he says, don't forget your shades, don't forget your shades. So I get my shades, I have my shades, then I come running in here and I'm like, oh, I got to get some water. And I ran right past, came back in here and I'm like, okay, I don't have enough time. I wish I was a little faster. I'd go get my shades. But
you know what? I had your back. There you go.
My back. Thank you for that. Everyone, I am with Christa Rose. She's a speaker. She's an Amazon #1 bestseller of Skip the Pain, Experience the Pleasure. She's a health advocate and energy worker. You can contact her at message Christa, and that's CHRISTA @gmail.com. Or she's brave enough to, you can call her at 519-919-0381. And I always like to say this, the reason why I say it, who you are, so much is because I want the whole world to know who you are. And so, who you are and what you do. So that's really famous. So Christa, thank you so much for being on our show today.
Robert, thank you so much. I want to thank your listeners too for taking the time out of their busy schedule to come and listen to me and hopefully get some motivation. And Howard, way to go.
Absolutely. I'm gonna go a little bit backwards before I go forwards with you, Christa. And one of the things that I saw that really stood out is you had a place that where you said, when the lights go out. And when I read that, I'm getting goosebumps. It actually kind of connected with me in a way that I just I knew. And when I say, and I've said this for a long time, when the lights go out, who are you and your character? When the lights go out, is the speaker who sold you that $20,000 package still going to fulfill their obligation? When the lights go out, and no one can see, are you the same person, inside as you are outside? And it really affected me. And, not only did you say when the lights go out, long after the lights go out, tell us a little bit about what does that mean to you? And, shed a little, as I would say, light on the subject.
That's fantastic. So I use a lot of acronyms, and one of the acronyms is WAIT, and it says what actions I'm taking. And are you taking actions out of kindness, out of love, or are you doing it because you want to be seen, or you want some praise? So if you really think about it, why am I doing what I'm doing? When we all come from a place of kindness and we end up lighting each other's light. And that illuminates even more and more and more people until we have this glow. And not only can we heal ourselves, I know physically I've had to heal myself. I'm a survivor as well from a rare disease. But not only can we help heal ourselves, we can be an inspiration for others.
You know, I'm going to stay with kindness for a little bit. And one of the things, and you and I we had a little opportunity to talk somewhat before the show. And I loved being able to talk with you about a few things. And we were talking about different words that resonate. Well, at least I was talking about words that resonated with me, but I could see that they resonated with you. And, you know, when you say the word kindness, some people think that means your weak need. I always have been a believer that if you can truly practice kindness, it really shows a certain amount of strength. What are your thoughts on kindness, and why is that a word that you embrace for your life and even for your clients?
You know, one of the best things I think we can do is when we do something for someone else and nobody knows, we don't have to tell them. And it's so important to have that and to embrace that, because that's what true kindness is. And it becomes our authentic self. You do it over and over, and it becomes more natural, and you're giving more positive energy and love out to this world. And isn't that the type of world we want to live in? We have to be responsible for what we do. We have to be illuminating what we want and really putting out to the world and showing them by what action we're taking that, you know, the world we want to live in is a peace and kind world.
Yeah, and a lot of that in what I see in you is, and it's the same thing with Howard, it's that active listening, but going, like, as my kids love to say, go, you know, extra. You know, it's going extra. And, you know, you can be determined, you can be goal setting, you can be purpose driven, you can be all these things. But when you do it with kindness and consideration and, you know, the space of being heartfelt, I think it also is like the greatest marketing you can have, because you're attracting the very people of who your universe is unfolding for you.
Yeah.
You know, because the people who aren't that way, they'll be repelled by it. And I tell people, becoming the best you isn't becoming the best you because you took leadership training or sales coaching or, you know, some type of, you know, other type of like presence, you know, marketing or anything from that. I mean, you know, to me, what it really is like, am I identifying, you know, and utilizing my own gifts?
Yes.
And so this is where I start. And, you know, we were talking about this a little bit. One of the things that I've said for the longest of time is, before you can work on your mindset, you need to work on your heart set. And if you get your heart set and your mindset set, then you will pursue the skill sets that will allow you to utilize to their greatest, you know, fulfillments for others. And I just wanted to get your thoughts on that and see what you know, what your perspective would be on that.
You know, people, places, and things have been put in my life for a reason. And I know for me, I survived a car accident, head-on collision. I lost my husband as he passed away in my arms, and I'm battling a rare disease right now. I was given 4 years to live. This is my 6th year. I am proud to say I'm 50. I just turned 50 August 25th, and I never thought I'd see it. So by having that heart-centered people in my life, that's what got me out of that darkness. You know, when Howard was talking about how easy it was to spiral down into addictions and, you know, get into that dark place, I was there. I stayed there for a little too long because I was in denial. When I say denial, another acronym is don't even know I'm lying. I didn't even know I was lying to myself. So once I had these beautiful people, these heartfelt people show me in a loving way, not a beating up way, but a loving way of what I was doing and how my actions were hurting, basically myself. And they showed me that I am important and I can have an impact on this world. I was able to get help, and I was able to get the tools and the insights to keep going. And really, that's how I became, I'm an energy worker, and I've been promoting health advocacy and a whole bunch of things. But yeah, that's a little bit of everything.
Well, and I love energy workers, and I didn't know I loved energy workers until I had an energy worker work on me. And it was the most life-changing experience that I ever had in a few short moments. And I had a Reiki session. And I kid you not, when I was done with that Reiki session, I felt like, one, I was walking on air, and two, the person who practiced the Reiki on me had to take me outside and ground me in the grass.
Yes.
And I was one of those people that thought, yeah, that's just something, the rich do, just to take money from the poor. Yeah, I know. I don't know. It's kind of,
That's okay. I love people like that.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden it's like, there's that saying, you don't know what you don't know. But and you know what? But it goes deeper than that, Christa. You don't know what you haven't experienced.
Yes.
And that's what was so tremendous for me, and that's where I started thinking to myself, am I digging deep enough? Am I, and digging deep doesn't mean outside. Am I digging in deep enough inside me that I'm getting the best of me out? And so, I was one of those where, I run and I eat right, and, I drink the right water, and my pH levels, and all that sort of yada, yada. And, even in my home, I don't bring toxins into my home. I grow my own food. But the thing was I digging deep in my own spiritual universal realm? And that's what I found in that one Reiki session. It's not foo-foo. It's real. And the people who need it as much as anyone are entrepreneurs, because I say entrepreneurs are the worst. They spend far too much time working, working on what they do and not on who they are. And, tell me about Reiki for people who don't know about it, and, kind of why is it so powerful and how does it help?
Oh, I am honored to. So first of all, I just became a Reiki master and a teacher. So I'm extremely thrilled about this, because I started way back in 1999 in hospice when my husband passed away. And I used it. So basically, we're all energy. Everything is energy. So this is connecting with the divine energy, the universal energy. And with the practitioner, they are trained to take that energy and through their hands, give your body what it needs to heal. I'm not claiming to be a healer. I'm not claiming to cure anything. Your body knows what it needs to heal. And when you're able to use that and take that energy and take some of those blockages, and you don't have to be a believer. That's okay. we still work with you. But when you take away those blockages, beautiful, beautiful things come up, not only physically, but mentally. People have cried and let go of things. People have literally had rashes that were, taking over their body and suddenly started healing. But it's because we got to maybe the core. And like I said, is having the energy, have your body heal itself.
Well, in your book, I wanted to kind of discuss a little bit about the book, about skipping the pain and experiencing the pleasure. And, I've always been one where experiencing experiencing pain, there's something that's therapeutic about experiencing some pain, but, at what amounts, and how fast are you getting through it? And then there's also something to experiencing pleasure, and there's a beauty in it as well. And to me, it takes both. it takes both in the world. But I'm sure in the way that you're illuminating it for us, you're speaking maybe of a different pain and a different place to seek out pleasure. Tell us a little bit about your book and how can you illuminate the title of your book for our viewers?
Oh, absolutely. So skip the pain. When I talk about that, is don't stay in it.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I told you a little bit about some things I went through, but in my book, I don't stay focused on the stuff I went through as a victim. I talk about how I overcame some of these tragedies, which brought me to pleasure. And I have a tagline. You ready for this? Is cut the crap that's holding you back so you can live the life you love. And what I mean by that is the word crap can literally is an acronym for clarity reveals amazing opportunities. And if you think about it, we're walking around with blinders on. And when we take those blinders on and get clear on what we want, get clear on letting the divine guide us to all the amazing opportunities, we can start living the life we love.
I love that. Some other things that you have that are very interesting to me is, your nutritional background.
Yeah.
And that could have stemmed out because you yourself were attempting to, like me, heal thyself on many different levels. What have you learned in, what is the reality of nutrition versus what we see, in commercial television on what they say nutrition looks like? How does it differ? And is there any place where it is the same?
Well, so I went to school to be a nutritionist. I went on to be certified medical herbalist. And so when we look at what exactly is our bread is not the same bread that our grandparents ate. Having said that, it doesn't mean that it's all bad. Our bodies have adjusted to that. But the thing is there's things that are missing in our bodies that we can't naturally produce. So one quick story is my doctor. So my disease is called anti-GAD 65, as well as stiff person syndrome. You may have heard it by Celine Dion. But so my doctor said, your levels are going up. We have to double your medication. Of course, it was a very addicting medication. And I said, how about if I double my magnesium? And she's the head of neurology. And she stopped and said, that is such a great idea. I'll be honest, I was pretty shocked. So she says, try it. So I did it. It was it worked wonders. And now she puts that in her practice. So looking at not only what our food is, I also have a farm, 100 acres, and it's cash crop. So we grow corn, soybeans, and wheat, and we rotate them and no-till. I won't get into the whole farming, lingo, but trying to create the best product of food and nutritional value there is for us and for our bodies, so we can nourish and replenish everything that we lose throughout the day because of the toxins and the big pharma who wants to just sell us on some pill that's going to, make me lose weight. Well, maybe if we look at how we're eating, we can not only be more healthier, but as a byproduct of that, we will lose weight. So if we focus on losing weight, that's not really what our focus should be on. But if our focus is on health, one of our core values is health, then that will be a result of.
I love that. It reminds me of, you need to put some work into it, but work isn't going to get you all the way there. Part of it is there's grace in the universe where these things are provided for us if we just allow them to enter into our lives. And Christa, oh my goodness, like how I could have you on for a couple hours. We could just keep going deeper and deeper. But, I just want to thank you for being on the show. Everyone, I'm with Christa Rose. She's a speaker. She's an Amazon #1 bestseller of Skip the Pain, Experience the Pleasure. She's a health advocate, energy worker. You can contact her at and you're up in Canada, aren't you? Up in
Canada. Yes, Ontario, Canada.
I always say that's a part of, the United States, right? No, I'm just kidding. No, it's I'm just kidding. Again, Christa Rose. Sorry. I'm just enjoying this conversation so much.
Me too.
You could call her at 519-919-0381. Again, 519-919-0381. Christa, thank you so much for being on this show today. I appreciate you. I appreciate your words of wisdom. And I appreciate you said, I'm not going to let life take me. I'm going to take life on and enjoy it. And I'm glad you're enjoying life.
Absolutely. Thank you for being such an inspiration, Robert, and having me on.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you. All right, we're going to take another break, and then we're going to bring on our last guest. I cannot wait to bring on Art. Just one more commercial break. Again, I was with Christa Rose. She's a speaker and Amazon #1 bestselling author of Skip the Pain, Experience the Pleasure. She's a health advocate, energy worker, Reiki, by the way, Reiki. She does Reiki, everyone. You can contact her at message Christa, that's CHRISTA @gmail.com, or call her at the Canadian number, 519-919-3081. Christa, we're going to have to do this again. I always tell guests, I'm like Doritos will always make more airtime, right? So we're going to have you back. Thank you so much. But on to my next guest. I'm really excited about bringing Art Blanchford onto the stage. Art, welcome. How are you?
Thank you, Robert. Thank you very much. I'm doing wonderful today. Thanks for having me on.
I am so excited to have you on, and we've had some pretty darn good subjects, I think, so far today. But guess what? We've had some pretty cool guests, haven't we?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, shout out to Howard Brown. I was on his podcast this morning, a recording session with him, and what a wonderful podcast. What a wonderful human. And the ways, we've connected. We're in several groups together now, and really appreciate his energy and his inspiration, and how he's opened up his network to me too, with really fabulous people.
Well, I couldn't say, I could say 2 words about Howard. Awesome man,
There you go. There
so
you go.
keep it there. I'm with Art Blanchford. He's founder and host of the Life in Transition podcast, right?
Absolutely.
The Life in Transition podcast. He's a husband, a father, a human being. I like that. An advisor, an investor, an adventurer. You can contact him at art@blanchford.com or call him at 615-788-8818. And Art, I am so glad that you're here today. But my favorite title that you put out there is Father. And one of the things that I really advocate is that we need more strong, decent men with high character raising their kids. And so when I see father, I always love to point that out there. And I want to say thank you for that.
Absolutely. And that's actually, it's a great, tough, wonderful job in any case. And I have 2 kids that are adopted out of my 3 children. And one of them has reactive attachment disorder, and he's doing great now, 23, but man, it was not always clear that was going to be the case. And it's been an incredibly learning experience for me to be a better man by learning how to best love and take care of him as he's especially going through puberty and growing up.
Well, and it's tough. Life is tough enough. And when you have a child with RAD, you hear ADHD or ADD or oppositional defiance disorder, ODD, but one that you don't hear as much of, but it probably is even stronger. And I call it the alphabet soups of kids, and is RAD. RAD is, that RAD means that child doesn't have the ability to create natural attachments to those around him or her. just for the sake of purposes of definition, talk a little bit about RAD and how it's affected your life.
Yeah, thanks. And it's wonderful, Robert, that you know what it is, because most people don't even know what it is, right? And I always say that RAD comes from, children that are not loved when they're very young. They build attachments to things, not to people.
Mhm.
And left completely unchecked, it leads to being a sociopath, because you have no empathy, you have no connection. Everything is life or death for you. You're on the border of being dysregulated all the time. So all of us, whether we want to admit it or not, we have the capability to rage and kill somebody if we're pushed to that point.
Right.
Right. But most of us operate at, say, 2 or 3, and it takes 10 to get to that point. Someone that has RAD, they're operating at 8 or 9 all the time. So everything is fight or flight. Everything is life or death. And they don't have the connections to want to protect people that they're close to, because they don't feel connected. And it's not like it's their fault. That's the way that they didn't have that built into their neural pathways of their brain when they were a baby.
Yeah.
And the difficulty of being a adopted parent of RAD, of course, I had no training on this, and I had no idea what it was when it showed up. And it usually shows up the most severe at puberty. And that's when it showed up. And man, I've learned a lot about loving and letting go and expectations and safety and taking care of the rest of the family and taking care of myself. But really amazing amount of compassion and kindness that I heard Christa talking about.
Mhm.
And he's doing well now. He's really a good human being now, which is not often the case that you can say with kids that have RAD.
There's a saying that says it takes a tribe. I mean, I guarantee you, when you have a child who has RAD, it takes a tribe, and
Yeah.
even down to the brothers and sisters that share the same space in the home. And our youngest is adopted as well, and
Congratulations.
thank you. And my wife and I work tirelessly in the foster care community, and my wife is on the board of one of our local foster kid shelters. And it's amazing. It's amazing what life looks like through a foster kid's eyes, because in many ways they didn't have an attachment ever to the very people that they should have that attachment with.
Right.
Our daughter came to us, and her dad broke her femur. In the body, the femur is actually the thickest, strongest bone in the body.
Yeah.
And she came down from Idaho. And so, she's now going to be 13 years old. She's in middle school. Does she have her issues? Absolutely. Do we have to, be kind and careful and do things, in a certain manner with her? Yes. But, I always say, sometimes if you look at life the right way, there's so much learning that's being given to you if you just accept that.
Yeah,
And
sure.
yeah, and Art, I think that you have that as well. Your podcast says it in so much, because transition is everywhere. It's do we decide to take every bit of transition and do we look at it as a difficulty? Do we look at it as a struggle, or do we look at it as an opportunity? Do we look at it as a gift, and do we look at it as true growth? Talk to us about, what transition means to you and how you invest in that word when it comes to the people that are in your life.
Yeah, I mean, I think to me, life in transition is about making the most of the changes that life gives us, right? So we can live deeper, richer, more connected, more loving, more fulfilling lives, right? To choose to see them as opportunities instead of, poor me. And I see that, like in everywhere in my life. And there's lots of things I could complain about. I was raised in a religious cult, and that had a lot of downsides, a lot of upsides as well, but it was very intense and some very, but the things that I learned from that. And the main thing to me is through transitions to keep this open mindset, right? To keep learning, to keep seeing the opportunities, and to keep the importance on the relationships, right? The relationships that define our lives much more than we think, especially people you're talking about, entrepreneurs earlier, being workhave Howard was talking about. I'm actually in Workaholics Anonymous. I mean, I'm that very serious recovery and have a lot of sponsees in that organization, but the relationships are what really define us. And so through the transitions, to keep the focus on what you can learn, to keep the focus on the relationships that are most important to us, and then to keep, be willing to go through the discomfort. That's the other thing, that most people, once things are a little bit uncomfortable, they want to go back to the way it was before, even if the way it was before was horrible. Like, they wanted to leave their job, and then they leave their job, and then they're so uncomfortable that they go back and get one just like it. Or they move across the country, but they haven't done their work. So it's just a geographical location, but it's not a transition. It's a change, but not a transition. A transition takes learning. And you were talking about earlier about digging out deep inside yourself.
Yeah.
Right. It takes you doing your work to make it actually a transition. And that's why I chose that word for the Life in Transition podcast.
And Howard hears me say this a lot, and I'll say it again because it really bears repeating. Entrepreneurs spend far too much time on what they do and not enough time on who they are. But that also,
Yes.
You can apply that to corporate leadership. You can apply that to military personnel. There's a lot of vocations, occupations, etc. out there that do consume time. And I'm not a fan of what they call life-work balance, but I am a fan of what I call self-harmony. And self-harmony is a place that I want people to strive to have, because, without moments of quiet space, we will never be in touch with us, because even our own mind can distract our own thoughts to pursuing a higher level of us. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. And I like that you don't like the word balance, because actually it sounds good, but balance is also stagnant. If you're in balance, it's also stagnant. I'm much more interested in flow and like the infinity symbol, right? So sometimes you do work hard, and that's okay, but you also pull back from that, right? Cal Newport in his latest book, he talks about working in a sustainable and variable output way if you want to do something that's really worthwhile, because there are different flows and seasons. But to never think you are your work, to never get lost into that as an identity, which then will destroy you. It becomes like any other addiction, and it will kill you if you let it go that far. But to keep things in flow, and to keep the focus on relationships and health, like you said, these quiet times. You see the picture over my shoulder of a hike I led with my 5 siblings and nieces and nephews out in the wild for 6 days in Montana last summer. Right, and that's those type of things don't come by themselves, but they're absolutely life highlights. Those kids that I led on that hike, they'll never forget that, and they had the downtime with their parents.
One of the things I've really never brought this up on the show, but you brought it up. Cult. There are so many ways that I believe that you can learn, from an experience of being in a cult. There's, if things go too far, it can be a cult. If things are more moderate, it's good organizational bonds, and sometimes, sometimes there's even blurred things in different companies. And I only say that because, I myself in my life, was a part of a cult as well. And so there's certain things certain dynamics within it, and none of them are physical. All of them are like a mental, emotional space or moat that surrounds you, and you don't have clarity of seeing outside. And so when I speak of the word clarity, it matters a lot to me, because when you don't have a clear lens to look through, you can never come to the point of making, good decisions. Tell us about not like your time frame, but what did you learn from that experience that you apply today, and in what way does it allow you to help others? And did you get my question, Art? I just wanted to make sure.
Hey, Robert, it seemed like we're having some connection issues, but I think you're asking about what I learned from the cult and how do I apply that today in my life. And I think the biggest thing on the, there's there's a lot of positive from a business success that actually came out of that, because I learned very early on to please them, right? If you want to be safe, you want to be taken care of, do what the leader wants. And that's very effective in business, but it's not healthy. Right. And I didn't realize that was driving me quite a bit until I was 49 years old. The thing that I see that's a difference between a good community, a healthy community, and an unhealthy community or a cult is that if somebody starts to feel that they are God and that they don't need to listen to anybody else, whatever they say is right, regardless of what it is, that they can't make, and they put themselves in that position of power where they really are playing God, that's a cult, no matter what the organization is. And you could see that in business, you could see that in this cult that I was raised in. But it's clear that that's gone way too far. And so even with myself, as I'm influencing a lot of people and I'm helping a lot of people, I'm very, very careful to always think, it's always about love and passion and doing what.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the strongest
other person, not trying to enrich myself.
Yeah. And one of the strongest pillars that we have in our community is it all starts with love, and it's very contrarian to a lot of business organizations that, I always say there's IQ, there's EQ, and then there's CQ. IQ is the intelligence. EQ is the emotional quadrant, or Rubik's. Yep. And then the last one is the CQ. And what I say is that's the appetite. That's your appetite to love and help and bring in others. It's the connective quotient. And, and so it's something I brought in. And so, I can see that you live that as well. And you're driving your purpose in a very special and beautiful way. Well, Art, I'm gonna let everyone know that yes, I'm with Art Blanchford. He's founder and he's the host of the Life in Transition podcast. He's a human being, husband, father, advisor, investor, and adventurer. You can contact him at art@artblanchford.com. Again, that's art@artblanchford.com, or call him at 615-788-8818. Art, thank you so much for being on the show. I'm going to bring in Howard and Christa right now so we can all be together before the show ends.
Awesome. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you. Well, Christa and Howard, I just want to make sure all the microphones are on. And one of the things that I wanted to bring onto the show that I didn't have in the past was just like green room time, but a little bit on the air. And my question at the last segment is, what have you learned about yourself, or what have you learned about someone else that you didn't know before that you would like to share? And so, Howard, I'd like to start with you.
Sure. So, one, thank you for all the kudos and the compliments. And I'm so grateful that you feel that I've touched your lives and so openly, authentically, and vulnerably. So I'm proud of that, because that is me. And so you all kind of fed that back to me. So it's reconfirming, and I love it. So thank you. First of all, I will tell you that we've all walked in difficult paths, just differently, different trails, but we've all had that darkness, that walk in darkness. We've learned from it, and we've chosen kindness. We've chosen giving. We've chosen healing. We've chosen gratitude and joy. And that is growth. And that's why we're aligned. And that's what makes us, join our forces of light together. So I love that. Maybe you consciously picked us all together to be here, but it's, I know we're all participating in the art of connection and joining this lovely community. And then I wanted to say, Christa, you faced a lot, but you've brought yourself back up. You've gotten back up again and again. And all I know about you is that you take care of everyone else. And sometimes, like me, you actually ignore yourself. And so we need to get better at that. And then Art, I'm listening to you. We just podcasted today, so I have the unfair advantage now. And I'm listening to Art, and he basically addresses, who am I? Mm-hmm. Where am I going? And how am I going to get there? And I love that, because, those are hard questions. And sometimes we need help, We got blind spots, and art can help get you there. And it's beautiful. So thank you.
Thank you, Howard. I appreciate you sharing. And my mom said, education can be self-directed, but it can also be group-directed. And sometimes when you can actually learn from someone who's just learned, that inspires a thought that they wouldn't have otherwise. So thank you for that. Christa, how about you?
Well, actually, Robert, I was going to pick you, but this also goes for the entire group. I will say you are one of the most heartfelt, authentic, optimistic people who is so dedicated to bringing awareness, not to just physical needs, it's mental needs, emotional needs, and spiritual needs. And I mean, look at the Art of Connection. And I just want to say thank you, Howard, for inviting me to be one of the authors. I absolutely love reading the books, and they're very, very inspiring. And the dedication that you have, and I will also say to Art, oh my goodness, there's so many times I was going to say, yeah, me too. That you're vulnerable enough to bring up what rad is. And I won't get into my own personal story with my son, but that walking on eggshells I can identify with. And Howard, me and you are just connected so much. We are both co-hosts on the Author's Journey, and you are definitely a guiding light for so many. And you, again, are so authentic. So this group is amazing. I'm so appreciative.
Thank you, Christa. And Art, how about your reflection?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I didn't mention earlier, Christa, from your side that I loved is this kindness with anonymity, right? That's like another level of kindness, right? Because I do a lot of the kind things, but I want a little pat on the back for them, right? I want somebody to know, right? So, but I think that's really beautiful to say that kindness with anonymity is really great. And I love your energy. I've also had energy healers and Reiki treatments, and really makes a big difference. I mean, I've been able to feel things physically and emotionally in different chakras that I never was able to do before. So I really appreciate that you're managing your health and helping other people manage as well. And I love that I haven't read the books yet, The Art of Connection. I'm joining in next year's books, and I'm really excited about that. But I think about the title, The Art of Connection, with me being Art. And one of my strengths, if you go back to Strength Finders, the Strength Finders from I don't remember who the author is, but one of my strengths is woo, which is all about making connection. There's actually a strength called woo, so I could also be the Art of Connection, right? So I love that title of the book, but I really appreciate the energy, Robert, of being on here, and always a pleasure to be with Howard. And like I said, we get to be together today as well, and earlier this week, so 3 times in the last 36 hours. But really appreciate your inspiration and your story, and see really good things for you, brother, coming in the future.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I appreciate each and every one of you being on the show. And, what I love is, I feel that we all are speaking from the head and the heart, because it takes both. And we get to share our gifts, and, hopefully this is providing some inspiration, some hope and support for others who are watching us, because I always like to say, if I can do it, anyone can. But you know what? Anyone can when they have people in the room like you. And that's what makes it so much better. When I was young, it was all about winning, but there can be only one. But as I've gotten older, it's all about succeeding, because then you can embrace and take everyone. And, Christa Rose, Howard Brown, and Art of Connection Blanchford, thank you for being on the show today. I appreciate you much. And you know what? Let's do this again sometime.
Thank you.
We'd love to.
Our pleasure.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much.
You've been watching the Iron Entrepreneur Show, a production of the Iron Entrepreneur Radio Network, with host Robert W. Jones. Join Robert each week as he visits with new and exciting guests who inspire, teach, and mentor entrepreneurs worldwide. Follow Robert each Thursday at 1:30 p.m. Pacific, 4:30 p.m. Eastern, and 8:30 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time.
Well, we lost Robert.